Do you remember the sound of a key turning in an empty house?
It wasn't a sad sound, but it wasn't a happy one either. It was the sound of responsibility, of solitude, of the quiet hum of a television that was your only companion until dinner time.
If that memory resonates deep in your bones, you are likely part of a generation that the world often forgets to talk about.
Generation X, the cohort sandwiched between the noisy boomers and the numerous millennials. You've been called cynical, detached, and maybe even a little negative. You've probably corrected someone by saying, "I'm not negative, I'm realistic." But what if those traits aren't personality flaws? What if they are the battle-tested components of a unique psychological operating system? What if your independence, your skepticism, and your quiet competence were forged in a specific crucible of history? Most videos about Gen X just give you a list of things you already know. They'll mention you were a latchkey kid and move on. They fail to explain the profound psychological impact of that key, that silence, that freedom. And they almost always miss one of the most critical elements of your childhood, something we're going to dive into today. Today, we're not just reminiscing, we are deconstructing the psychology of Generation X to finally give it the analysis it deserves. You see, being the forgotten generation isn't entirely accurate. It's more like you were the generation in stealth mode, observing from the shadows while everyone else was making noise. You weren't forgotten. You were gathering data. In this video, we're going to put that data into a framework that makes sense. We won't just list your traits, we will explore their psychological architecture. First, we'll explore the forge of self-reliance, understanding how benign neglect created a generation of hyper-competent problem solvers, and we'll examine the dark side of that independence. Then we'll decode the gospel of pragmatism, showing why your skepticism is actually a highly evolved survival mechanism. After that, we'll uncover the missing piece that most analyses ignore, the world of feral freedom, and how unstructured, unsupervised play shaped your core psychology. And finally, we'll define your crucial role as the bridge generation, the human link between the analog past and the digital future. We'll even touch on how this unique psychology influenced your parenting, for better or for worse. This isn't just a trip down memory lane. This is an autopsy of an era and a celebration of the resilience it created. By the end of this, you won't just feel seen, you will feel understood on a schematic level. You'll have the language to explain why you are the way you are. So let's get into it. The central pillar of the Gen X psyche is a radical form of self-reliance. This wasn't a chosen philosophy. It was a condition of survival. Growing up in the 70s and 80s meant navigating a world of shifting foundations. Divorce rates were skyrocketing, the economy was a roller coaster, and for the first time in modern history, it often took two incomes to support a family. This led to the iconic image of the latchkey kid. But the key itself is a red herring. The real story is what happened after the door was unlocked. It was in those silent hours that a core psychological directive was installed. No one is coming to help you. If you were hungry, you figured out how to make a snack, even if it was just a slice of cheese on a cracker. If you were bored, you entertained yourself. There were no curated activities or parental cruise directors. If a problem arose, whether a forgotten homework assignment or a broken toy, the first step wasn't to call for a parent, it was to try and fix it yourself. This benign neglect, as psychologists call it, had a powerful effect. It created a generation of people who are exceptionally resourceful and competent. A Gen Xer in an office is often the person who just quietly figures out the new software without training, or fixes the jammed printer everyone else is complaining about. They don't expect a parade, they just expect things to work, and if they don't, they'll make them work. But here is the dark side of that superpower, the nuance that most analyses miss. When your primary directive is figure it out yourself, asking for help feels like a personal failure. It's not about pride, it's a fundamental violation of your operating system. This is why many in Gen X struggle with collaboration, delegation, and even intimacy. The belief that you can't rely on anyone but yourself was a childhood survival tactic that can become a prison of isolation in adulthood. You become the person who carries the entire weight of a project, a family, or a relationship on your shoulders, not because you want to, but because you literally don't know how to put it down and ask someone to share the load. It's the paradox of Gen X. Your greatest strength is also the source of your quietest struggles. This fierce independence leads directly to the second pillar of the Gen X psyche, a deeply ingrained pragmatism. Does that sound familiar? That feeling of being the only one you can truly count on? Let me know with a yes in the comments if that hits home. If self-reliance is the engine, then pragmatism is the steering wheel. Many outsiders mistake this pragmatism for cynicism or negativity, but it's far more strategic than that. Gen X grew up in the golden age of marketing hype and institutional failure. They watched the Watergate scandal unfold. They saw the hollow promises of trickle-down economics, and they were the first generation to be marketed to from the cradle to the grave. The psychological result was the development of a highly sensitive BS detector. This isn't an emotional reaction, it's a cognitive filtering mechanism designed to conserve energy. Why get excited about a product, a politician, or a new corporate initiative when past experience suggests it will likely disappoint? It's more efficient to remain neutral, observe the facts, and wait for demonstrable results. This is why Gen X fundamentally respects competence over credentials. A title, a fancy suit, or a charismatic speech are just data points, and often misleading ones at that. True respect is earned by demonstrating the ability to get the job done, period. The person who can actually fix the problem, regardless of their position on the org chart, is the person who holds the real authority in the eyes of a Gen Xer. This mindset is also why they have such a complicated relationship with social media. To a mind conditioned to value results and authenticity, the world of influencers, curated selfies, and performative happiness, as one commenter on a similar video put it, we don't think social media is risky, we think it is just plain stupid. The mantra, the less people know about you, the safer you are, isn't paranoia. It's a pragmatic security policy in a world of data breaches and shifting social currencies. So when you hear a Gen Xer say, "I'm not being negative, I'm being realistic," what they are really saying is, my experience has taught me to trust observable reality over optimistic projection. It's a worldview forged in disappointment and optimized for survival. But these two pillars, self-reliance and pragmatism, were built on a foundation that is almost completely missing from the modern world. This is the part of the story that is so often missed. Before the latchkey turned in the lock, and after homework was done, there was a vast, unstructured, and unsupervised world waiting outside. We'll call this the era of feral freedom. This was the world where you left the house on your bike in the morning and were simply expected to return when the streetlights came on. Your parents didn't have a GPS tracker. They had a vague sense that you were somewhere in the neighborhood.
This wasn't just play, it was a real-world physics and social dynamics laboratory. You learned about risk not from a warning label, but from the sting of falling off your bike and the knowledge that you had to get yourself home. You learned negotiation skills trying to decide the rules of a neighborhood kickball game where there were no adult referees to settle disputes. You learned resource management by pooling your spare change to buy a shared drink at the corner store. This feral existence taught you that freedom and responsibility are two sides of the same coin. You were free to roam, but you were responsible for navigating your way back. You were free to build a fort in the woods, but you were responsible for dealing with the scraped knuckles and splinters. This constant, low-level risk assessment created a kind of ambient competence that is incredibly rare today. It's the ability to walk into an unfamiliar situation and instinctively know how to orient yourself, identify potential problems, and find a solution. This is a skill you can't learn from an app or a weekend workshop. It has to be absorbed into your nervous system over thousands of hours of unstructured experience. The sadness many Gen Xers feel when looking at younger generations isn't one of judgment, but of loss. It's the quiet grief for a world of freedom that has vanished, a world where children were trusted to be capable and resilient. And this unique combination of experiences placed Generation X in a very specific position in history. If you combine the fierce self-reliance, the pragmatic skepticism, and the risk assessment skills from a feral childhood, you get the perfect candidate for a unique historical role, the bridge. Generation X is the last generation to have an analog childhood and the first to have a digital adulthood. You are technologically bilingual. You remember having to use a card catalog and an encyclopedia for a school report, a process that taught patience and research skills. But you were also young enough to embrace the first personal computers, the dial-up modem, and the birth of the internet. Unlike digital natives who can't imagine a world without instant access, and unlike older generations who often struggle with new tech, Gen X stands with a foot in both worlds. This has a profound psychological effect. It means you see technology as a tool, not a habitat. You can use social media efficiently, but you don't need to live there. You can master the latest project management software, but you also know that sometimes the best solution is a conversation in the hallway. This bridge status also extends to culture. Many of you, as mentioned in the comments of the original video, had grandparents from the greatest generation. You absorbed their stories of the Great Depression and World War II, their ethos of thrift, stoicism, and duty. At the same time, you are now managing millennials and raising Gen Z, trying to translate your hard-won pragmatism to a world you didn't create. Like a literal bridge, you bear a tremendous load while being largely taken for granted. Bridges don't get much attention. They just hold everything together. And that brings us to the final and perhaps most complex piece of the puzzle. So, what happens when this unique psychological specimen, the self-reliant, pragmatic, feral bridge builder, becomes apparent? The answer, for many, is a phenomenon we can call the great overcorrection. Looking back at your own childhood, marked by its silence and forced independence, a core vow was often formed: my child will have the attention and safety I never did. This came from a place of deep, profound love. You traded unsupervised freedom for supervised playdates. You traded the silence of an empty house for a schedule packed with enriching activities. You traded the directive, figure it out yourself, for how can I help you figure this out? The intention was noble, to protect your children from the loneliness and harshness you endured. However, as one brutally honest commenter noted, the result was sometimes a mollycoddled generation that struggled to figure things out for themselves. In shielding them from the wounds you received, you may have inadvertently shielded them from developing the calluses of resilience. This isn't a failure, it is a complex psychological irony. The most independent generation in recent history, through an act of love, raised a generation that is often more dependent. Understanding this isn't about placing blame. It's about recognizing the intricate, often paradoxical legacy of your own upbringing. It provides a framework for compassion, both for the child you were and the parent you became. If you're finding this breakdown valuable for understanding yourself or the Gen Xers in your life, consider subscribing. We go this deep every single time. So, as we pull these threads together, what is the final portrait of the Gen X psyche? It is a psychology of quiet competence, forged in the fires of benign neglect. It is a mindset of earned pragmatism, built as a defense against a world of broken promises. It is rooted in the memory of a feral freedom that taught risk, responsibility, and real-world problem-solving. And it culminates in the crucial, understated role of the bridge, connecting worlds and holding the center, often without thanks or recognition. If you've spent your life feeling like you don't quite fit, it's because you were designed for a different world, one that valued resilience over performance.
Your instincts to stay quiet, to observe, to fix things without being asked, and to trust actions over words are not quirks.
They are the components of a psychological toolkit that is desperately needed in the world today. In an era of hype, your pragmatism is an anchor. In an era of fragility, your resilience is a blueprint. In an era of dependence, your self-reliance is a superpower. So the next time you feel like the forgotten middle child of history, remember the bridge. It doesn't make the most noise, but it's the only thing allowing traffic to flow in both directions. It's the most vital and the most invisible piece of the entire landscape. And that is a legacy to be proud of. If this analysis resonated with you, and you finally feel like someone put the pieces together in a way that makes sense, do me a favor and hit the like button. It tells YouTube that this deeper level of psychological exploration is something people want to see. And subscribe for more deep dives into the psychology that shapes our world. I'm genuinely curious, what was the most feral freedom memory you have from your childhood? Share it down below. I'd love to read the stories of this lost world. And if you want to understand the other side of the bridge, check out our video on the psychology of millennials right here. Thanks for watching.